4 village nuns vanished in 1980. 28 years later, the priest makes a shocking discovery. In the quiet, unassuming town of Eldon Hollow, Northern California, a mystery that had haunted an entire community for nearly 3 decades finally began to unravel. It all started in 1980, when 4 village nuns vanished without a trace, leaving behind nothing but unanswered questions and a void that no one could fill. For 28 long years, their disappearance remained unsolved, until Father Elias Morrow, a priest who had carried the weight of this tragedy on his shoulders, made a discovery so shocking it would change everything. This is a story about faith tested by unimaginable darkness, about resilience in the face of despair, and about the power of hope that refuses to die. The morning sun filtered through the stained glass windows of St. Agnes of Mercy Catholic Church. Father Elias stood at the altar, his voice steady, yet heavy with sorrow. He was conducting a memorial prayer service for the missing nuns, a ritual he had performed every year since their disappearance. Among those 4 women was Sister Tertz, Morrow, his own sister. Her absence had left a wound in his heart that never fully healed. As he looked out at the congregation, now smaller and older than it once was, he couldn't help but feel the weight of time pressing down on him. Decades had passed, but the pain felt as raw as ever. What happened to them? Where did they go? And why had no answers come? As the service ended, Father Elias greeted each parishioner with forced composure. Some still whispered theories among themselves, wild speculations ranging from bear attacks to the idea that the nuns had abandoned their vows. But Father Elias knew better. His sister would never have left willingly, not without telling him. That certainty gnawed at him, driving him to seek closure, even after all these years. Back in his modest office, surrounded by theological texts and faded photographs, he allowed himself a rare moment of vulnerability. Tears streamed down his face as he clutched a picture of Tertz on the day she took her final vows. She had been so young, so full of purpose, and now, decades later, her fate remained shrouded in mystery. That afternoon, something pulled at Father Elias, a deep, inexplicable urge to visit the site where the nuns were last seen, St. Dana's Chapel, nestled near the edge of Shasta Trinity National Forest. Though the chapel had long been demolished, replaced by private property owned by a reclusive man named Silas Redwood, Father Elias felt drawn there. Perhaps it was mere sentimentality, a desire to walk where his sister had walked. Or perhaps it was something more, a whisper from the past, urging him to uncover what others had missed. Little did he know, this decision would set into motion events that would shake the foundations of everything he thought he knew. When Father Elias arrived at the entrance to Redwood's estate, disappointment washed over him. The chapel was gone, reduced to memories, buried beneath landscaped grounds. Yet, as he prepared to leave, his car radio crackled to life, emitting an eerie sound, a haunting Gregorian chant. The hair on his arm stood on end as he realized the radio wasn't even turned on. It was as if some unseen force was calling to him, guiding him toward the truth. Against his better judgment, Father Elias found himself trespassing onto Redwood's property, following instincts he couldn't explain. There, hidden beneath ornamental shrubs, he discovered an old air vent, and from below, faint sounds of life, a woman humming a sacred hymn, followed by a rasping cough. Someone was alive down there. What Father Elias uncovered next defied belief. With the help of local authorities, including Deputy Williams and Harold Gibbons, the former caretaker of St. Dana's Chapel, they descended into an underground chamber carved into the bedrock. Inside they found Sister Tertz, alive but frail, her body ravaged by years of captivity. Clutching a hand-carved rosary, she spoke words that sent chills down everyone's spines. God never left me. But alongside her miraculous survival came horrifying revelations. In another corner of the chamber lay the skeletal remains of Sister Beatrice, and evidence suggested the other two nuns had perished years earlier, under equally tragic circumstances. The question now loomed larger than ever. Who could do such a thing, and why? Silas Redwood, the enigmatic landowner, was taken into custody, his sullen expression masking a lifetime of hatred and resentment. As investigators delved deeper into his motives, they uncovered a journal filled with chilling entries detailing his obsession with the nuns and his pathological disdain for the church. The pieces began to fall into place, painting a picture of a meticulously planned abduction, fueled by twisted logic and personal trauma. But while justice seemed within reach, many questions remained unanswered. How had Redwood managed to keep his crimes hidden for so long? Why had no one noticed the signs? And most importantly, how had Sister Terz endured 28 years of captivity without losing her faith? As Sister Terz lay in a hospital bed, surrounded by medical equipment and bathed in soft light, Father Elias struggled to reconcile the frail woman before him with the vibrant sister he remembered. Her physical condition was dire, malnourished, weakened by decades underground, but her spirit burned brightly, undimmed by the horrors she had faced. When she asked about the church, her first concern wasn't for herself, but for the institution she had dedicated her life to serving. It was a testament to a faith so strong, it transcended circumstance, offering glimpses of divine grace even in the darkest moments. Yet, as Father Elias sat beside her, holding her fragile hand, he couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was far from over. The wounds of the past ran deep, and healing would take time. But the story doesn't end here. As investigators continued to piece together the puzzle, new details emerged that hinted at broader corruption and complicity. Meanwhile, Sister Terz's recovery brought its own challenges, forcing her to confront a world vastly different from the one she had known. Would she be able to reintegrate into society after spending nearly 3 decades in isolation? Could Father Elias find peace, knowing the depths of evil his sister had endured? And what secrets still lay buried beneath the surface, waiting to be unearthed? Stay tuned for the next chapter of this gripping tale, where we'll delve deeper into the investigation, explore the psychological toll of captivity, and witness the enduring power of faith in the face of unimaginable adversity. Until then, ask yourself, how far would you go to uncover the truth? And what price are you willing to pay for justice? As Father Elias returned to the hospital waiting room, his mind raced with questions that had no easy answers. The discovery of Sister Terz, alive after 28 years, was nothing short of miraculous. But it also opened a Pandora's box of horrors. What had she endured during her captivity? How had she managed to hold on to her faith in such darkness? And what about the others? Sister Beatrice, Sister Mildred, and Sister Joan. Their fates were now clearer, yet no less tragic. Each revelation brought new layers of pain, not just for the victims' families, but for the entire community of Eldon Hollow. Harold sat silently beside Father Elias, his weathered hands clasped tightly together. He had been the caretaker of St. Dana's Chapel when the nuns vanished, and though he hadn't spoken much about it over the years, the guilt of not noticing anything unusual weighed heavily on him. "I should have seen something," Harold muttered, breaking the silence. All those months Silas Redwood was watching, planning. I was right there, tending the grounds, fixing things around the chapel, How did I miss it? Father Elias placed a comforting hand on Harold's shoulder. You weren't the only one who didn't see it coming, he said softly. Redwood played his part well. A wealthy man with connections, respected by everyone. Who would suspect him? But even as he spoke the words, Father Elias couldn't shake the feeling that they had all been complicit in some way. The church had sold the chapel quickly, eager to move on from the tragedy. The police investigation had fizzled out too soon. Even the townspeople had eventually stopped asking questions, allowing the mystery to fade into legend. Perhaps this was why God had kept Sister Therese alive, not just as a survivor, but as a witness to ensure the truth would finally come to light. Meanwhile, Deputy Williams and his team worked tirelessly to piece together the full scope of Redwood's crimes. The journal found in his home painted a chilling picture of obsession and hatred. Entries dated back decades revealed how Redwood had fixated on the nuns long before their disappearance. He saw them as symbols of everything he despised: religion, authority, abandonment. His mother, a nun who had left him as an infant, became the focal point of his rage. In his twisted mind, punishing these women somehow balanced the scales for the pain he'd endured. Yet the meticulous detail in his writings suggested more than mere madness. It hinted at calculation, control, and a desire to dominate. The deeper the investigators dug, the more disturbing the revelations became. Redwood hadn't acted alone. Bribery, coercion, and corruption had allowed him to operate undetected for nearly 3 decades. Several officials from the 1980s were implicated in covering up evidence related to the construction of the underground chambers. Some had died, others had retired, but their names would forever be tarnished. As news of the investigation spread, whispers rippled through Eldon Hollow. People began to question what else might have been hidden beneath the surface of their quiet town. Back at the hospital, Sister Therese slowly regained strength under the care of Dr. Chen and her team. Her body was frail, but her spirit remained unbroken. During brief visits, Father Elias marveled at her resilience. Despite the unimaginable suffering she had endured, she spoke of forgiveness, not just for Redwood, but for everyone involved. God sees all hearts, she told him one evening, her voice weak but steady. Even those consumed by hatred. They are lost souls, Elias. Pray for them. These conversations stirred conflicting emotions within Father Elias. On one hand, he admired his sister's unwavering faith and compassion. On the other, he struggled to reconcile her grace with the depth of evil Redwood represented. Was forgiveness truly possible in cases like this? Or was justice the only path forward? These questions gnawed at him, especially as details about Redwood's treatment of Sister Therese emerged. The psychological torment, the physical abuse. It was almost too much to bear. As days turned into weeks, the case against Redwood grew stronger. Forensic experts examined the remains of sisters, Mildred, Joan, and Beatrice, piecing together timelines of their deaths. Meanwhile, Sister Therese provided crucial testimony, recounting fragments of her ordeal. She described how Redwood had isolated her from the others after Beatrice's death, using her as a pawn in his warped game. At times, she had prayed for death, believing it to be the only escape, but each time despair threatened to consume her, she clung to the memory of her brother's promise that he would never stop searching for her. The media frenzy surrounding the case reached a fever pitch. Reporters camped outside the hospital and the courthouse, desperate for updates. For the people of Eldon Hollow, the story reignited old wounds while raising new fears. Could such a thing happen again? Were there other secrets lurking in the shadows of their seemingly idyllic town? Amidst the chaos, Father Elias found himself drawn back to St. Agnes of Mercy Church. Standing before the altar, he prayed not just for his sister, but for everyone touched by the tragedy. He prayed for the souls of the departed nuns, for the healing of the community, and even for Silas Redwood, for whatever brokenness had driven him to commit such atrocities. As he knelt in silence, the weight of his responsibilities pressed down on him. The trial loomed ahead, promising to expose every raw nerve. Justice would be served, but at what cost? One evening, as Father Elias prepared to leave the church, Deputy Williams appeared at the entrance. His expression was grim, carrying the weight of urgent news. "Father," he began, stepping closer, "we've uncovered something you need to know. It seems Redwood wasn't working entirely alone. There are indications that someone else may have been helping him. Someone still out there. The blood drained from Father Elias's face. After all they had uncovered, after all the progress made, the nightmare wasn't over. Somewhere, another piece of the puzzle remained hidden, waiting to be found. And until it was, neither Sister Terse nor anyone else could truly rest." With a heavy heart, Father Elias followed Deputy Williams into the night, ready to face whatever came next. As Father Elias stepped out of Sister Terse's room, the weight of everything that had happened pressed heavily on him. The hospital corridor seemed quieter than before, but his mind was anything but still. He knew they were far from finished. Not with Silas Redwood in custody. Not with so many unanswered questions lingering over Eldon Hollow like storm clouds. Deputy Williams appeared at the end of the hallway, his face tight with urgency. "Father," he said as he approached, "we need to talk." They found a quiet corner near the chapel, where Father Elias had prayed earlier. Williams opened a folder and spread out several documents, photocopies of pages from Redwood's journal. "This goes deeper than we thought," the deputy began, his voice low. "Redwood wasn't working alone. There are references here to someone else helping him. A woman who worked for the diocese back in the 80s. She helped cover up evidence. After the nuns disappeared, Father Elias felt his stomach drop. Corruption within the church. It was almost too much to comprehend. Yet as he read through the excerpts, the truth became undeniable. The entries detailed how this unnamed accomplice had ensured the investigation stalled, feeding false leads to authorities and pressuring witnesses into silence. Her motive, according to Redwood's writings, was fear. Fear of scandal rocking the church during turbulent times. The revelation shook Father Elias to his core. For decades, he'd believed the church had done all it could to find the missing nuns. Now, he realized that some within its ranks had betrayed them, and by extension, betrayed God himself. "Who is she?" Father Elias asked. His voice barely above a whisper. Williams hesitated, then slid a photocopy of an old personnel file across the table. The name written there sent a chill down Father Elias's spine. Sister Agnes Marie, a former administrator in the diocese office. She had retired years ago under mysterious circumstances and moved away from Northern California. "We're tracking her down now," Williams said grimly. "But if she's still alive, she'll have to answer for her role in this." The next few days passed in a blur of interviews, legal proceedings, and medical updates on Sister Terse. Despite her fragile condition, she showed remarkable resilience, surprising even Dr. Chen. Slowly, she began to share fragments of her ordeal, the isolation, the psychological torment, the moments when faith felt like the only thing keeping her alive. Each detail painted a harrowing picture of human cruelty, but also of divine grace, shining through unimaginable darkness. Meanwhile, news of the discovery spread like wildfire. Reporters swarmed Eldon Hollow, desperate for interviews and sound bites. Parishioners filled St. Agnes of Mercy Church, praying for Sister Therese and seeking solace in the wake of such shocking revelations. Father Elias addressed the congregation one Sunday morning, standing at the same altar where he had conducted countless memorial services for the missing nuns. His voice trembled as he spoke, but his words carried conviction. "What we've uncovered is painful," he admitted. "It challenges our trust, shakes our faith, but let us remember, evil does not win because it exists. It wins when we allow it to define us. Today, we choose hope. We choose forgiveness, not for the sake of those who sinned against us, but for ourselves, so that bitterness cannot take root in our hearts." His sermon resonated deeply, drawing tears from many in the pews. Among them was Harold Gibbons, who had stayed close throughout the ordeal, offering support wherever needed. After the service, he pulled Father Elias aside. "You know," Harold said quietly, "Sister Therese always reminded me why I believed in God. Even when things looked hopeless, she never stopped trusting him." Maybe that's what we're meant to learn from all this, that faith isn't about having answers. It's about holding on, no matter what. In the weeks that followed, justice slowly unfolded. Silas Redwood faced multiple charges, including kidnapping, unlawful confinement, and murder. The journal proved damning evidence, corroborating Sister Therese's testimony and linking him directly to the deaths of sisters Mildred, Joan, and Beatrice. As for Sister Agnes Marie, investigators tracked her to a small convent in Arizona. Though frail and suffering from dementia, she confessed to her involvement, claiming she had acted out of misguided loyalty to the church. Whether her remorse was genuine or self-serving remained unclear, but her cooperation helped prosecutors build an ironclad case. For Sister Therese, recovery was slow but steady. Physical therapy strengthened her weakened muscles, while counseling helped her process the trauma. Father Elias visited daily, bringing books, photographs, and stories of how life had changed since her disappearance. One afternoon, as sunlight streamed through the hospital window, she turned to him with a faint smile. "Do you think people will understand?" she asked softly. "Understand what?" "That I forgave him," she clarified, referring to Redwood. "That I prayed for him every day, even when he—" Her voice trailed off. Unable to finish the sentence, Father Elias took her hand gently. "Some won't," he admitted. "But those who truly know you will see your forgiveness as a miracle, a testament to the power of love over hate." When Sister Therese was finally discharged from the hospital, the entire town turned out to welcome her home. A celebration was held at St. Agnes of Mercy Church, where she stood beside her brother, frail yet radiant, addressing the crowd with a strength that defied her physical condition. "I am not special," she told them. "I did nothing extraordinary. I simply trusted that God would carry me through, and he did." Her words echoed long after the event ended, becoming a source of inspiration for everyone touched by the tragedy. For Father Elias, the experience transformed his priesthood. No longer burdened by unanswered questions, he embraced a ministry focused on healing and reconciliation. The scars of the past remained, but they no longer defined him or his sister. As winter gave way to spring, Sister Therese returned to religious life, taking up residence in a small convent outside Eldon Hollow. Though she rarely spoke of her captivity, her presence alone served as a reminder of hope, triumphing over despair. Father Elias continued serving at St. Agnes, guiding his flock with renewed purpose. Together, they rebuilt not just their community, but their faith, brick by brick, prayer by prayer, and so the story of the 4 village nuns came full circle, not with vengeance or despair, but with redemption and grace. In the end, it wasn't about solving every mystery or punishing every wrongdoer. It was about finding light in the darkest places and choosing to believe, even when belief felt impossible. That, more than anything, was the legacy Sister Therese left behind, a legacy of unwavering faith, enduring hope, and boundless love.